Once there was a king. He wanted to know the answers to 3 important questions which were puzzling him. He thought that he would never fail in anything he might undertake if he knew the answers to those questions. His 3 questions were: how can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Who are the people I need the most to help me with the work? How do I know which is the most important thing to do? The king said, I announce a great reward to anyone who can give the right answers to my questions. The most learned men came to the kingdom. Each one had a different answer to the king's first question. One of them said, for every action, we should draw up a plan in advance, a table of days, months, and years, and must live strictly according to the plan. Only with this timetable, everything can be done at a proper time. Another scholar declared, it is impossible to decide the right time for every action. If you avoid getting absorbed in idle pastimes and attend to all that is going on around you, you can manage the most important task. The third scholar said,
however attentive the king might be to what is going on, it is impossible for one man to decide correctly the right time for every action. I think that the king should set up a council of wise men who would help him to fix the proper time for everything.
Some scholars contradicted this and said, some things might demand immediate action. Of course, for this, we need to know what is going to happen in the future. Only magicians can tell the king what is going to happen in the future. Therefore, one must consult them. Equally various were the answers to the second question. Some said, the king needs his counselors the most. Some said doctors. Some said priests, while the others said soldiers. The answers to the third question were even more confusing. They ranged from focusing on science to warfare to religious worship. The resulting confusion led the king to meet a hermit, who was widely known for his wisdom. The hermit lived in the woods and never met anyone but common people. The king disguised himself as a common man and went to meet the hermit. When the king reached the woods, the hermit was digging the ground for planting herbs. Seeing the king, he greeted him and went on digging. The hermit was frail and weak, and each time he stuck his spade into the ground and turned a little soil, he breathed heavily. The king waited, but the hermit continued to work. The king decided that he would ask the questions anyway. I have come to you, wise hermit, to ask you to answer 3 questions. My questions are, how can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Who are the people I need the most to help me with the work? How do I know which is the most important thing to do? The hermit continued digging without giving answers to the king's questions. He looked terribly tired. The king said, you look tired. Can I help you? And took the spade from him and started digging. After he had dug 2 beds, the king repeated his questions. The hermit gave no answer. The king went on digging. The sun was sinking behind the trees. They suddenly heard footsteps. Someone was running towards the hermit's hut. He was bleeding from a large wound in his stomach. He fell, fainting on the ground, when he reached the hermit and the king. They took him inside the hut. The king cleaned the wound repeatedly and covered it with his handkerchief and with a towel the hermit had. The blood stopped flowing after a few hours. But the king and the hermit continued to take care of the wounded man all night. In the morning, when the man awoke, He stared at the king for a few seconds. He was overcome with shame when he realized it was the king who had saved his life. "Forgive me," cried the man when the king looked at him. "I have nothing to forgive you for." "Who are you?" said the king. "I am your enemy from the neighboring kingdom, who had sworn to kill you because you had killed my brother in a battle. When I heard that you were coming to meet the hermit in disguise, I followed you so that I could kill you. Your men, however, caught me and wounded me. How can I thank you for saving my life? If you hadn't dressed my wounds and looked after me, I would have bled to death. From this day onwards, I will serve you as your most faithful slave, and will ask my sons to support you. Forgive me." A little later, the king went out to see the hermit again. "I am asking you for the last time. Can you give me the answers to my questions?" "Do you still need an answer from me in words? When you came to see me, you saw me working. And when you saw that I was getting tired, you decided to help me. If you hadn't decided to stay and help, you would have been killed by your enemy on your way back. I would say that the most important action was helping me. The most important person was someone whom you were helping, me first and the wounded man later. If that man had died, he wouldn't have made peace with you. Therefore, the most important time is always now. The most important person is the one who needs your help. The most important action is to comfort the person who needs help.